Hey, what's up, everyone? So we're in here for Friday, and the markets are looking pretty good. I will be sizing up my pairs for next week shortly, towards market close. So kind of just going into the pairs for today, we had NFP, which has brought in some nice volatility across a few pairs. We can see that the momentum has actually kicked in now, which is phenomenal. In terms of trades, I did take two trades in total since the 200K assessment. And I am still following the risk management plan that we created in the last video. So if you haven't seen that, watch that one. It's really good. The two trades that I did take was a break even on Aussie New Zealand and a open trade, which is still running on GBP yen. What I'm going to be doing as well is I'm going to synchronize my portfolio, my live trading, my assessment account with FTMO with my FX book. So I'm just waiting for the account to get verified on that so that I can just have that open so you guys can check that. But I do believe that it doesn't get updated until every 24 hours, so you won't be able to see what's taken until tomorrow. Um, However, it's not really a big deal. You'll just be able to see the track record, the trades, and so forth, and that's just something which is really nice as well. So what I'm going to be doing in this video today is I'm just going to be going over the trades that I took and then just briefly going through what's going on in the markets, and then potentially, if I feel like it, we could maybe go through some extra pairs. So starting off with Aussie New Zealand. So the way I saw this was I was looking at this on the daily, and essentially with the near miss, we pushed away and we were just basically in this run to the downside. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that the trade is written off. It just means it's a slightly more complicated trade at the moment than it was before. On the 4 hour, we always understood that this was possible, but we could see that this was basically the area where we left a little footprint in the market, the little hook point, and we correctively came back to it. Now, on the 4 hour, this was the clear signal for me. As soon as I saw that 4 hour close like this, I was like, okay, that is a very interesting candle because we've wicked through this area. This could easily be the A to B movement to this side before we come back up. So I was aware that we had NFP today, but I wasn't anticipating it to basically wick all the way, tap into the low income all the way back up in a matter of a minute. So it is what it is in this situation. Sometimes these things do happen, but overall, I took it with around about 14.8 pip stop loss, call it 15, and then essentially I was in it. The nice thing about this is we did actually start forming a consolidation here before we dropped, and I was evaluating this a little bit closer, and I did notice that in terms of my criteria for this entry, there was an entry over here, but even so, the risk parameters would have been pretty much the same. In fact, it was very, very well, even though I took the trade I already took, the protection was there, and I was more happy with the protection I had than what could have potentially been taken on this. Then what actually happened was this dropped off in a matter of a minute, and it just kind of dropped all the way down to about 2.5% and then pulled all the way back up. At that point there, I was kind of a bit, iffy. I was like, well, if this closes back here and then starts to trickle its way back up, then, I'm going to write this trade off because more than likely it's probably going to come back in, tap into these areas, maybe even become a bit more complex before we continue. And that's basically what's happening now. So you can see that this could have easily been a trap if people just ignored this wick, because the wick's actually done its job. It's actually wicked all the way down, tapped into these lows, and then pulled back. The funny thing is, I actually set my take profit just here when I went to walk my dogs, and then when I came back, it was like 10 minutes before NFP. I took my take profit off, and then it literally just taps it and came back. So it is what it is. Like these things happen. Just don't let them destroy you as a trader. Like I was more than happy to just get out of the market. I actually took a so I'm trading with 0.25% risk. I took a 0.25% off the 0.25%, 0.2%, sorry, which was like $100 off of a very small amount. So it was very negligible. But at the end of the day, this did run for roughly around about $1,000 odd, and then kind of just pull back up. It is what it is. Like you can't do nothing with it. So we move on to the next one. But in terms of an entry, what I will be looking at now is I'd be looking for that and a clear, solid push down. And then maybe if we had something like that, I would maybe possibly consider it. It really just depends. There's a lot of better things shaping up at the moment. And because we're on Friday, we're probably not going to get this entry when we anticipate it to be there. But it could shape up around about swaps. I'm just not really too interested in it, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to wait till next week. I think next week's going to be a better play for this one, but I'm going to take that off my watch now. But yeah, that's basically it. The GJ one, a little bit more interesting. So I actually took a few trades. When I say a few trades, I mean two before this one. So essentially what I was looking at was this originally, and essentially I was looking at this as an expanding to basically go higher. So I understood that with the way the positioning is, obviously being aware of this potential area here, not that it held a huge amount of weight, but I was just being aware of it. Then I saw this as a 1, 2, 3, and then I saw this as the override, right? So when we pulled back from here, I was looking at it and it was on the 15, so I wasn't too convinced. But then when I looked at it on the 1, and I'll just kind of play the candle next. Here we go. So we were in this area here, and I was a little bit like, well, okay, realistically, we're pulling back at this point. Is it possible that we can go from here? I was looking at the entry from here, and I think this is where I actually took the first one, which ended up with a break even. And I think my stop protection was about roughly around about 35, and it ran for 1% in the end, I believe. Yep, it ran for about 1%, and then it just kind of pulled back to break even just after that. So we'll see that just come back to the break even. Yep. And then at this point here, I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to leave that, and we're going to wait and see what happens. So back to the 1 hour, and I was just waiting. Oops, I went a bit too fast there. I was waiting for this one, and then we had this little candle here. Now, when this happened, I was kind of a little bit convinced, like, okay, hang on a second. So we've kind of this has been met, and then also we had this little point here that isn't majorly significant, but I understood it too, and I was like, okay, this is fairly large. What sort of stop protection would actually be on there if we did get an entry in there at some point? We'd basically be looking at about 45, which felt a bit large, and I thought, okay, this is a great place to potentially play the 50% on it. So wait for the next candle, and then there it was. So I was able to see it come in here. I did go in with a little bit extra on that protection. I don't think it was necessary. I think it was roughly around about 36. And then got taken out for the break even. I was just very, very oh no, I wasn't. No, yeah. So I went to walk my dogs and I decided that I'm not going to leave this risk open. I'll probably just wait. If it comes back down, it does what it does. Took the break even on that. And then I think what happened over here, what time was it? It was roughly around about 9. Yeah, so it was about 2 hours later. We were hovering around about here, and I think I took the entry just here. Now, this one was a little bit more risky because what I ended up doing, hang on, it was the next candle, I believe. It was roughly around about here when it pulled back a little bit. I took it here for around about 50 odd pips. Actually, I'm just kind of, let me just quickly swap over and just see where I entered the market. Okay, so it's in line with that. So yeah, so it was literally here on that, literally on that candle there, and my protection was somewhere around about here, and I just basically left it. And then yeah, so essentially that was my trade. It was in here, and I didn't really zoom in. And when I did zoom in, I kind of did see this, but I wasn't looking at this when I took the trade. Just bear that in mind. I wasn't looking at this little piece of consolidation. I was more so just interested in this larger bit here and the protection to it. So when I was looking at it on the 1 hour, I was like, hang on a second, okay, that doesn't look bearish. We are in the right area for shorts. And then when I evolved this, removing this is when it kind of got a little bit more interesting for me, because I was like, okay, how do we approach it? Well, in fact, we actually did squeeze into it, which is really nice. So when you look at it like that, what's really nice about this is not only did we get the expanding, but internally we got this squeeze with a subjective first touch, of course, but we had this. And then what I liked about this was that we kind of came in with equal spacing as well to it, and then we just dropped off and then we moved. So the thought process, everything was really nice here. We got the push away, and now we've got the commitment. I'm looking to play this into here. I believe I have a 5% potential now. I don't know why my stop placement's not great on here. I need to actually just figure out exactly, but it's somewhere in there. But I know I've got a 5 to 1 on this. So I'm pretty sure I probably got in around about here somewhere around about there. And basically, yeah, so I've got about 5% just below here. And I'm going to be looking to probably either get more aggressive in these areas. Hopefully we impulse through it, but if we stall in this area, then definitely I'll probably be out in the market here, because what I'm doing right now is, as mentioned previously in the last video, is I'm building a buffer. So I've got a 200K account, and essentially, obviously the profit target is plus 20K, but I'm doing this very slow. So how I'm doing it is I'm trading with 0.25, which is $500. And essentially what I'm doing with that $500 is I'm basically planning to make around about 5%. And then when I make 5%, I've got 2.5K. And then when I've got that 2.5K, I'm going to be doing that again. So I'm going to then follow this process again, try to reach around about 5K, and then I've got that buffer. Then I'm going to increase risk to 0.5%. And then if I stay above it, then I go in through the next categories. If not, it is what it is. But it could take a lot more time. Like I was just fortunate to get the entry today. I would have happily stayed out the market for another, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days or whatever, however long it would have taken. It's just one of those ones where I was eyeing this up. I had this on soft watch. It wasn't actually on my watch list, but it was watching these yen pairs, and across the board, this one just seemed to resonate with me more than the other ones. And I was more than happy with this sort of structure because I've got more experience with it. So overall, I was happy with the stop protection. I was happy with the position sizing. And obviously we can see that we're in a clear run. So what I am looking at now, if I zoom out to the monthly, which is quite zoom, if we do impulse through there, we could be on our way with continuation to these areas. Now this has been very impulsive, and the nature of this sequence isn't your typical sort of corrective momentum like we see over here. You can see that throughout this, it was fairly corrective and just ended quite impulsively. This one has actually been a little bit more impulsive, a little bit corrective here, and then impulsive correction. And just sizing this up from an A to B movement, right? If we're looking at it from here to here, we're taking that from this area, we could actually just be moving with a pretty decent amount of impulse. So that's why I'm not looking to manually close on this position when I get to that area. I'm going to be looking to be more aggressive, but just understanding it. Now, this can still come back down to the downside. That is still a possibility, and I've got protection locked in anyway, so that I'm not going to be taking a loss on this. But more than likely, this is the area I'm going to be focusing on mainly, just to see how price gets there. And then when we do get there, we can evaluate it closer. And that basically covers that. Gold was a really interesting one as well. The context was there for the position. It just wasn't it wasn't the best one to be taking the entry on, in my opinion. I think I was really interested in it, but I wasn't interested in the phase line entry on this. I guess when you do look back on it, the trade was there and it was pretty decent because you basically had the squeeze and then you had a little bit of accumulation there, which wasn't the cleanest, and then we just dropped off. If you did take it, from here, I wouldn't really say that's a bad trade. I'd say that even with around about 18, you'd still be in for a decent trade. You'd be with a 3% to the low there, well protected, and that would have been a decent trade. But overall, I don't really see anything wrong with it. So kind of just going over all of that, I think at the end of the day, the position was pretty good. So I'm just going to jump over to the FTMO account quick. Hey guys, what is going on? So going over FTMO, this is the live metrics for it. Essentially, this is the account that I'm using for the 200K assessment. I don't know how to really navigate on this one, but I do understand the older one. And with the old one, which is going to load, computer is going a little bit slow today. Okay, so I'm more familiar with this one. That was the live metrics. This one is just basically the account. So you can see that the account started yesterday on the 6th of June. I did actually take the trades on here. So you can see that I've basically only traded for 2 days now. It hasn't been updated yet. So this is just basically the stats. However, I was briefly looking at the new metrics, and the new metric seems a little bit more cleaner. It's actually a little bit more nicer in my opinion, only because it's kind of synchronized with now. So you can see over here at the bottom that the live P&L is actually running here and it's moving. I'm basically running around about 2% on my position, almost 3, which is nice. I'm almost very certain that it will go to roughly around about 5, but it needs some time to develop. It might get there impulsively, it might get there slow, but more than happy with that position because I've got my position locked in with a little bit of profit that brings my account just over break even, because I did fall into minus $100, which is very minute. So essentially waiting for that trade to just kind of run and do its thing. You can see that all the trades I took here, this one was actually taken yesterday, and then I got out early morning just to reposition myself. And then I did get repositioned. You can see I closed after 18 minutes at break even. And then this one was actually a mistake. I opened it and then closed it. And then yeah, just reopened, and now I had this one open for roughly around about, it says 3 hours, maybe 3 hours, and then it dropped for around about 2.5% and then came back up. It is what it is. Overall, there wasn't really much to really do about that position, so taking that loss was it was just one of those things. And then overall, it hasn't really moved much. But then the nice thing is that in terms of probabilities, I was able to get another good entry, and then now we're running in profit. So we just have to see what's on through now. It is possible that this can still come back down, tag me out for break even, and we're back to where we were originally. However, we are in a clear run. We've got more than enough. So now we just need to sit and wait on our hands and let price do its thing. We are en route for the 20K. It will take some time to get there. Even if we end up going up a bit and we start stagnating, it could take some time. But the nice thing about this is you're going to see a good level of patience, discipline, and just kind of how to handle the situation of if you do take a sequence of losses, what are you doing, over trading. And the nice thing about this is I've synchronized it with my FX book over here. So I will make this open source as well. It does update every 24 hours. It updated 6 hours ago. It's a bit random, to be honest, because it just updates whenever it wants. But you'll be able to see the trades that I take as well, and the growth of the account. So it's not really, there's no real subjectivity around it. If you have any questions, a lot of it will be put in here as well. So we'll see. Obviously, if you don't know how my drawdown plan is working, it's in the last video. So if you do see that losses and stuff are increasing, it's probably because I scaled to a milestone, and at that milestone I've increased the risk to a certain amount. So just bear that in mind. But the idea of this is keeping it low risk, building a buffer, and then increasing risk gradually, and then eventually reaching the target. Now, the thing about this account is it will only be the only thing about it is it will only be here till I hit the target of 20K, and then I'll have to do it again and hit the next target, which I think is 10K, and then eventually we'll have the full account and we can basically move forward from there. I probably will track the second phase to this one as well as this phase, just so that you guys can have that in the data there and stuff, and you have these videos to reference back to. There'll probably be a lot of videos because I'm not anticipating passing this in a week. You know what I mean, right? This could take a month, could take 2 months, but I'll try to keep this well synchronized. And at the end of it, even if we do fall into drawdown at any point, the good thing about it is you guys will see a proper insight to how I'm handling it and what I'm actually doing to get out of that drawdown. So essentially, yeah, this is looking pretty good. I don't think there's much else. So that basically summarizes the video, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.